Hey everybody, so in the last video I showed everybody that I've got the frame all painted up. Still got to put the shock mount back on. It's just 4 bolts. I took it off to paint it and get the frame easier. But the frame's all done from the cab back. And so I've got a few things now that more like repairs, I guess you'd say. So I've got the stuff laid out over here, and I'll show you what all I've got that we're going to be swapping out on it now. So I've got a set of rear shocks, and I've got a transmission mount. I got under there the other day messing around. I saw the transmission kind of wiggling, and I got to looking, and so I pushed up on the transfer case, and this whole thing just is split right here. It's kind of hard to tell just looking at it because the rubber fits right back together, but it's totally separated. You can raise it up several inches. So I got one of these at the parts store today. They had it in stock. So it wasn't really expensive, about $30 I think, $35. So I'm gonna put that on. And then the rear U-joint on this truck is greasable. So I put that in several years ago because it was cheap. I bought a non-greasable spacer joint. I don't have it down here, but I'm gonna go ahead and probably put that in the rear of the rear shaft, right at the differential pinion. That way, if I happen to pull it or, work it very hard, I won't have to worry as much about that U-joint breaking. I wouldn't really care, if I did happen to pull it and the U-joint broke, that wouldn't be a big deal. But the problem is, it may beat the ends of the drive shaft or the yoke up pretty bad if that U-joint ends up breaking. I'm confident it won't break under just normal driving, but never know when I might get a wild hair and want to hook it to the sled or something. So I figure I'll just go ahead and replace it. Might save me from having to fix the drive shaft or something later. And then I've got one more thing here, which is some 4-inch exhaust pipe. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and take the stack out of it. I like it sometimes, but I've had it in there for such a long time, probably since, I don't know, 2007 or 8 probably, or maybe before that, I'm not sure. I've had the truck since about 2003. So, I think it's time to just run the exhaust out the back and try something different for a while. This is not a kit, this is just some pipe that I came across. And so I'm going to be kind of building what I need out of it, basically. Yeah, I don't think this is supposed to be like this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that mount has done its due. This is all supposed to be one piece. Let's see where it fit together. It's probably original, so it's 28 years old. So definitely pays to check this stuff. I probably neglected this truck a little more than I should, and I've been hard enough on it, drag race it, pull it every now and then, and drive it a little bit hard. But I'm a little older now, so I think maybe I pay a little more attention to this stuff. But I don't know how long that's been broke, but just a reminder to check stuff like that, because it doesn't last forever. I've got the new one in. It wasn't too bad. I just jacked the transfer case up with a block of wood and a floor jack and got some pressure off of it. Just make sure you don't get your fingers in there if you don't have it blocked up good. If it comes down, they'll be pancakes. But pretty easy job other than that. 15 millimeter socket and ratchet. That's all it takes. There's my new transmission mount in. So that should be a lot better than it was before. I may try to pressure wash some of the grease out under this thing soon, but I've got a lot of leaks to fix, and probably going to reseal about everything on it when it's all said and done. So anyway, this little part here is done for now. Okay, I'm ready to put my grease hitch back on. I just need to mask that off and just paint around it a little bit once I get it bolted back up. I've got my little washers painted up. I've sanded them down and painted them, little oval deals. And there's all my new hardware. Alright, got everything tight. So this is from the front of the truck looking back. The dirty looking pipe here is my downpipe. It's 4-inch. I had a piece of flex pipe on it right here where this pipe is sleeved on. I just use this piece to kind of see how it's going to clear the cross member if I go straight back, because it's going to be really tight right there. I don't want it rubbing because it'll vibrate and carry on. It needs to have just a little bit of clearance. And I can't rotate the downpipe anymore because on the automatics, if I can show, the heat exchanger is above this plate for the transmission, one of the transmission coolers. And this is already rubbing, which I didn't know. It's a wonder it's not leaking because this downpipe's been on here for a long time. So I really probably should take the downpipe off and clearance a little bit. If this would focus a little better, it would be good. Really should probably clearance a little bit just right there in that one spot where it's rubbing. Okay, here's my new 7-pin setup. It's a Hopkins 48480 part number. I like the way it's made, pretty good. It's just got a spring-loaded cover like most of them, but the back of it, a lot of the time these have a little set screw up here somewhere that holds them to this part. This one has little clips on the sides that just push out and snap when you push it up on there. So that seems like a better, easier setup than taking a little tiny screw out and pulling them apart that way. Okay, I got the 7-pin finished up. Like how it looks. I need to get probably some little corrugated tubing like and cover these wires up with it. And this wire has to be hooked to the bed. I just twisted it together to make sure my trailer brakes were getting to the plug, and they are. And so pretty much the wiring part is done there. So we'll move on to the next thing, which is this downpipe. On an automatic 2nd gen truck, you have a heat exchanger, and I think I showed y'all kind of, but right here is where it's been kind of rubbing my downpipe. Okay, it's not real pretty, but I got that beat in, I don't know, it's probably a good 3/4 of an inch or so, across a pretty broad little spot there. I think that'll be all I need. Okay, the downpipe's back in. I'm looking up from the bottom toward the turbo, and there's, it's hard to tell, but there's plenty of clearance between that and the bell housing. And then can see now there's plenty of clearance between the downpipe and the heat exchanger metal piping, so that's a lot better than it was. And I've got enough clearance here. It's going to be really tight on the cross member. This little piece is just to kind of check it. Before I couldn't get it to slide on, it was in too much of a bind. Okay, my new non-greasable joint is in. I just painted the end a little bit there, and I may paint the rest of it once it's in the truck. Alright, here's the new U-joint all installed. Everything's good there, and I got the right shocks in. Go ahead and put them on. They seem to fit good. Basically what we're going to work on today is exhaust, or today and tomorrow, however long it takes to get it done. This is kind of what I'm working with. Got some pipes with a couple different bends in them. This will be my long piece coming from the downpipe straight back to the axle. I'm hoping I can let this be my piece that kind of starts to go up over the axle, but we'll see how it works out. I'll have to get it cut a little bit to length and then go from there. I know I'll have to cut at least, you know, this off of it probably to here. So I may do that, measure the length, and see kind of where it works out. I may have to use that to go over the axle, I'm not sure yet. But I've got this pipe here. I've got this little slip-on piece. These are going to be my clamps, and I'll show you this first. Basically my plan for this is just a 4-inch slip joint. So a 4-inch pipe with slip in either side. I'm going to cut it in half, which will make 2 slip joints. And I'll weld one at the end of this piece, wherever we cut it at, to slide over the downpipe. And then I'll clamp it with this, because this has got, this is called a lap clamp, I think. Basically it steps up to go over the piece that slips over a 4-inch pipe, and then the smaller diameter would clamp right on the 4-inch pipe. So that'll clamp this to my downpipe, and then when I get back in front of the axle, I'll probably do another one right in front of the axle. That way I'm not working with, that way I'll have one straight run through the axle, then I'll have my over the axle and tailpipe piece. So those will be separate, and that way if it ever needs to come out, I should just be able to take a couple, 3 clamps off and get everything apart. That's my plan. We'll see how it goes. I got my chop saw out. That's what I'm going to be cutting with mostly if I can. So I'm going to get going and I'll update with progress. So I went ahead and tack welded the coupler on here. You can see the downpipe will slide up in here and bottom out, and then the clamp will go around this and the downpipe. But this is the long piece that I had, and basically I cut this off the straight section, and then I had to cut it before it bent that way because it was bending the wrong direction. Hopefully I can use this little kick up to kind of get me going over the axle though. So it should be pretty close on length, so I'm going to slide it in there and see what it looks like. Alright, you can see my pipe there. I've got it sleeved up onto the downpipe. You can see where it kicks up, kind of go over the axle here. So I'll have to get me a bend right here to come back down behind the axle. Okay, I've kind of got my over the axle piece kind of mocked up. I'm thinking this is what I'm going to use. I'm not 100% sure yet. I've got another piece of, the other piece of pipe with some bends in it that might would work too. that joint is not my favorite the way it meets up, but it wouldn't hurt function at all, and you couldn't see it, so really it doesn't matter. There's some gaps, but I think I can weld them in without too much trouble. Trying to figure out my tailpipe situation, kinda. This is where my hangers lined up, which seems about right. Tried to judge it off of some video or some pictures of other exhaust systems. So basically, this is what I've got at the moment. It's going to be hard to know exactly where I need the tailpipe until I get the bed back on. So I may kind of, I've got to weld that joint up here in the bend, and I've got to weld my couplers all the way around up here where my pipes connect. And then I've got a clamp for this little tailpipe piece. So I've got to do a little welding, but I think I can put everything together except I may have to cut this pipe a little more where the tailpipe meets it. Okay, here's the tailpipe section out of the truck. I'm going to go ahead and weld up this joint, and I'll weld up that joint. I'm just using my little flux core MIG. Okay, here's the finished over the axle piece, except for the tailpipe will go here, but like I said, I'm going to wait on that and be sure about where everything needs to be once I get the bed on. But this pretty well gets me back to just the very end of the tailpipe where it's going to kick out. I had some gaps to fill here. Like I said, it's a flux core MIG. They don't weld as pretty as a gas MIG, but it's not too bad. Some of this didn't have too much for gap, but some of it did. I think this side here, you can tell the weld's a little thicker. I welded it and then I came back over with another pass just to make sure it had pretty good penetration. There's a lot of slag with the flux core, but that's okay, it's just an exhaust. Down here I didn't have any big gaps to fill. Just had to make one pass. So it looks okay. It's not perfect, but it'll do the job. I don't think it'll leak. So anyway, that's my slip coupling, and I can just put a clamp on that to the long piece that's coming from the downpipe. So now I just need to pull it out and put another bead on the slip coupler where it goes on the downpipe, and the welding part will pretty much be done except for the hangers. Okay, here's both the pipes that we've got the long straight section here that comes, this is the downpipe end and then goes back towards the back axle, and this is the over the axle piece. This is where the tailpipe will be, but I'm going to wait and finalize that once the bed's on. And there's the slip joint that slides onto the long piece here. Okay, it's just kind of sitting in there. I haven't made any hangers yet. It'll need some final tweaking before I am ready to do that. Just getting it in perfectly in position, but I think we got to start it up and at least hear it. Okay, so this is kind of where I'm at. I've got everything blocked up about where it needs to be. I think I've got clearance up there at my cross member, so I'm hoping maybe I don't have to clearance the pipe any up there where it goes through the cross member. But everything seems to be fitting up really well. I've made these hangers. They're just I think 5/16 steel rod, and I'm gonna go ahead and tack weld them all on here. This one I may kick forward a little, or rearward I should say. But anyway, I'll go ahead and tack weld these on good enough that I can get the pipe back out, hopefully. It's gonna be a little harder to get in and out with the hangers on it, but once I get those out, then I can go ahead and weld the hangers, and I'll wrap them around the pipe as I weld. They'll have some heat in them, and I should be able to just hammer them around the pipe as I go. All right, here's my hangers. I just tack welded everything on where I think it needs to be. So now I'm going to go ahead and weld and hammer these ends around as I weld. Just kind of get a decent surface area on that. I may have to cut a little bit of that one off, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get that done, and then I'll paint these joints, and this tailpipe piece will be done, other than if we have to modify the end once the bed's on. So okay, here's pretty much the whole exhaust from the downpipe back, except for what will be the very end of the tailpipe. I painted all my weld joints and kind of just sprayed the hangers with some gray paint I had laying around just to keep everything from rusting too bad. But it all turned out pretty good. I think it'll look nice for a while. I didn't have any heat paint, so I just used what I had. Hopefully it holds up at least enough to keep it from rusting for a while. So there that is. You can see the 3 hangers I've got welded on here. So I'm gonna let the paint dry for a minute, and I'm gonna put it all in the truck. All right, this is all hung in the truck. Like I said, this section right here basically is still not totally certain, but my hanger's welded on and painted, and then it's just a straight shot up there. You can kind of see the nuts for the clamps sticking out on the bottom, but everything's clamped in except for the very back here. It's got a little wiggle, but I think this other hanger will help a little bit with that. And I mean, they're made to move some. They got to flex a little. But here's these hangers. Here is the clamp. I think it turned out pretty nice. It has just a little clearance with the cross member. It's hard to tell it, but it does have clearance. And so I'll see if it hits as I'm going over things, and I can, you know, maybe make some adjustments. But basically, I think she's ready for a test fire. And once I put the bed on, I'll finish this. Okay, so y'all saw that little running video there. Truck sounds pretty good. My wife revved it up a couple times there. It's a little raspier sounding, you know, not as deep as it was before. I think, you know, that long 6-inch stack made the difference there. I revved it a time or two after she got out. And when you really step on it, it blows the smoke way out compared to how it used to. It used to just kind of loaf out of that stack. So it's a little bit different seeing that. It's different for me seeing this truck with a regular exhaust anyway, because it's had a stack for, I don't know, 14, 15 years, a long time. But just time for a change, and if I don't like it, it just slips apart and I can put a stack back in it or anything. But anyway, that's going to conclude this video. I think that'll be long enough just having this exhaust building video. So everything worked out pretty good there. Thanks for watching, and still got another few videos coming for this thing. Got a modification or two to make, and hope we put the bed back on pretty soon. So stick around. Thanks for watching.